in Hayward. And the concept is pretty simple. It's to link you with available resources. In Antioch, there were roughly 50 businesses and 14 resource providers. Here, there's roughly 320 small businesses and 80 resource providers. So I really urge you to take advantage of the program and try to link up with some of those resources in a particular area that you're interested in. What we try to do in the panels is group people by a specific type of growth and age and experience. And in each room we've attempted to put a sort of range of resources so that we can answer as many of your questions as we can. I assure you that we won't be able to answer all of your questions. On the other hand, maybe we can start to link you with folks that can. So the first thing is I'm going to ask everybody on the panel to go through and introduce themselves and introduce their firm so you have some familiarity with them. And then I'm going to ask a question of each of them based on the questions you submitted when you signed up for the panel. And then we're going to turn it open to you, and it's your time to get your questions answered. So Philip?
Sure. Hi, I'm Philip Milestone. I'm an attorney with Modcore LLP. That's a firm I started 2 years ago with two friends of mine from law school. And in that respect, I'm a business exactly like you insofar as I'm 2 years old. And I'm also a little bit different than you insofar as my industry's existed for who knows how long. We provide all manner of legal advice to businesses of many different sizes, international and national. We don't get involved with litigation. I stopped objecting when I left my law firm job, and now I just work on the corporate side to make sure you guys are protected, that you are able to focus on your business and your agreements, both among your own owners and the people with whom you're doing business, make sense for everyone involved.
Hi, nice to see everybody here. My name is Hank Levy. I'm a CPA. I own a CPA firm in Rockridge on College Avenue, NBC Levy and Company. We've been in business for, we're mature, 25 years. We've grown to 15 people. I started in my home, and we do accounting work, bookkeeping, consulting, QuickBooks work, taxes, of course, litigation support, business valuation, and try to answer all your questions.
Hi. Morning. My name is Jack Opit. I'm with East Bay SCORE. SCORE, like SBDC, is a resource partner to the SBA. We're a national organization, about 350 chapters, 12,000 counselors, all volunteers. East Bay chapter has about 50 counselors. We do free counseling, unlimited. Be the counselor as long as you getting value. And we also conduct very low-cost workshops on a variety of business topics.
Hi everyone. First off, thank you for being here, and thanks everybody for putting this together, especially the volunteers. We're OBDC Small Business Finance. My name is Alton, and we lend to underbanked entrepreneurs, those who cannot qualify for a conventional bank loan for their small business. We've been around the Bay Area, and we only lend to the 9 Bay Area County for the past 33 years, and we do SBA lending. And we lend from $25,000 to $250,000.
Hi, I'm Noah Sochet. I'm with Donation Pay. We're a small business startup in Berkeley. We do online fundraising tools for nonprofits, event registration, and online fundraising systems and so forth. And we're also lucky and delighted to be a client of the SBDC. We've got an incredibly fruitful relationship with an advisor there, and so I can speak a little to the process of using some of the resources that are here today. We've had a good experience doing that, and I don't think we'd be where we are if we hadn't made those connections early on. I'm so glad to be here.
And the purpose, each panel has a small business like Noah and Donation Pay. And the purpose is kind of to just hear the story from somebody who has taken advantage of some of the resources and kind of been in the places that you're in and solved some of the problems that you're faced with.
Lowell Rice, I'm the Business Services Manager at the Private Industry Council. We run the One-Stop Career and Business Center in Oakland, and our mission is to connect businesses with the candidates who come through our doors to do their job search and to work with our counselors. And we have a number of different programs that can sweeten the deal when you want to hire folks from us.
Erwin Reeves, Mechanics Bank, manage the business banking group, the SBA department, and also community development. Mechanics Bank is a family-owned community bank, 105 plus years old, and provide full array of services for small businesses, SBA financing, real estate acquisition, and commercial and industrial loans.
Hi, my name is Anka Mashoyu, and I run Technology, which is a technology salon in downtown Oakland, where we help businesses like yours learn how to adapt to technology and use technology in their operations. Mostly we do websites and one-on-one coaching and helping people set up email. I started my business about 3.5 years ago and opened my doors almost exactly 3 years ago, so I'm totally like some of the others here, excited to be here, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Okay, so when you submitted questions, some of you submitted questions, and I'll just take the first one. A number of you asked about government contracting, and as you notice, there's no one really specializing in government contracting on the panel. But I'll just mention that the Business Entrepreneurship Center, which is a part of the Chancellor's Office at the state, is putting on a series of government contracting workshops beginning in September. One track is for state local, one track is for federal, and one track is for large corporations. And they're each going to be low cost. I'm not sure, $50, $75. 3 sessions, 2 sessions on just the basics and the reasons to do it and how to market, and then one actually a networking session with local agencies. So in the state case, maybe Caltrans, maybe DGS, a variety of those folks. So 3 separate tracks. That'll start in September, ending up in October. And in November, the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation is putting on a big event at City Hall in Oakland. They're working with DGS, and the issue is that, as we all know, there's a lot of money that's going to be pushed back into the counties because there are a lot of prisoners being released and a lot of prisoners moving back into county facilities. So DGS and the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation wants to increase the participation of small businesses that provide services for these folks and for the agencies. So there'll be a half-day program. They'll use the city chambers. People will get certified on-site, and there'll be a number of folks from other agencies available. Now, it will likely be the 2nd week in November. So if you are interested in government contracting, just kind of keep those dates in mind. You'll be hearing about it from the cities. You'll be hearing about it from the chambers, the chamber link. The SBDC will try to get the information out through SCORE and some of the other folks that are here as well. So having said that, why don't I just start with all. One of the questions was a gentleman who signed up who asked, I'm 6 to 18 months, I'm a micro business, what's the best way for me to go about getting funding for my small business?
It's a challenging question. There's a lot of variables behind it, but how many of you in the audience have tried to apply for a conventional small business loan through a bank? Anyone? How was the experience, if you don't mind me asking?
I didn't really apply for it, or if I could get it, I would have a really, really high interest.
Okay.
Way higher than was worth it for me.
Okay. So from what we gather, it's pretty challenging. And just really quickly, how we work is typically bankers know about us. A lot of business transactional attorneys know about us. CPAs know about us. And so that's where referrals come from. The general public does not know about us. And that's kind of a good thing, and I can explain why later. But at the end of the day, what happens is somebody goes to a bank, let's say Mechanics Bank, then Erwin cannot help under the eligibility guidelines that their bank has. And then so Erwin will give myself a call, for example. Say, can we have a client here? Can we help them out? Okay, we are not a bank. We're just a lender. So, for example, we don't have any depository accounts. We cannot provide any business credit cards. We cannot provide any business lines of credit. The only thing we are able to provide are term loans, commercial loans, and primarily they're all SBA, so pretty well trusted, right? Yes. That said, we take the risk if we are able to deploy capital and issue a check to that entrepreneur, and which goes back to hopefully the referring bank, which in this case would be Mechanics Bank. And that's how that cycle develops, and to get them to the growth stage to where they become bankable. So that underbanked definition is pretty much where we step in. It's kind of the middle of the lending pyramid. To grow, I would say one of the biggest mistakes I've seen is entrepreneurs are not prepared. And that's why resources such as the Small Business Development Center over at Rick Ulrich's group, or over at Jack's Center over at SCORE, whatever SCORE you use, they're throughout the United States as well as SBDCs, they help you prepare. And being loan ready includes the business plan, includes the projections, includes also knowing how to apply for a loan, which is, are there alternative sources of income in the household? For most lenders, including us, we take a look at global underwriting. Anybody want to take a guess on what global underwriting is? We look at the business financials, and we look at the personal/household financials. And one of our specializations over the past 33 years is not just financing underbanked clients, but also financing startups. So here's where we differ from banks, for example. Conventional banks' definition of a startup is 2 to 3 years, perfectly profitable sales history. What if you don't have that 2 to 3 years profitable sales history? Where do you go? So our definition of startups, pre-revenue, 0 to 1 years. So that's kind of some of the differences in specializations that we offer. But at the end of the day, to answer everybody's question, be prepared, be loan ready. And SBDC and SCORE definitely help you get there. By the time you get to us, hopefully all the documents and the information that we would ask you is already in place, and or you have that knowledge ready in your head.
So the question Alton asked led to sort of a question in my own mind. I'd love to get a little bit more feel for who we have in the audience here. How many of you, are all of you already in business? How many of you are currently in business? Excellent. Okay. And when Alton asked the question, have you tried to get a bank loan, did you not have your hands up because you were still asleep? Or how many of you actually have tried to go out and get alternative financing or bank loan? Okay, excellent. How many of you think that to grow your business in the near term you're going to have to seek some financing? Okay, terrific. Okay. Okay, Hank, another one of the questions was, where do I get a good feel for, just sort of the compliance requirements for being legal in my business from a tax standpoint, accounting standpoint? Where can I find that information in one place at one time to make sure I'm abiding by all the laws and regulations?
So when you start, if you start out, or even if you started out, but you feel, you're not quite doing things right, especially if you want financing. When people come in to me and they ask me for where do I start, I say, okay, so bookkeeping really comes first. I mean, even, I assume, am I right, most of you don't have employees. Who's kind of just alone out there working by themselves? Most of you. So, I mean, the simplest form of business is a sole proprietorship. And for those who don't have employees, the bookkeeping is number one. Well, going to the bank, getting a bank account, lining up bookkeeping. There's many different resources for that. Oftentimes, a solution like, probably using us, let's say a CPA firm, as a bookkeeper is probably a little bit more expensive than you need to spend. There's plenty of bookkeepers out there. Sometimes you'll do your own. But that's a choice that I usually try to question the owner about. They should be out doing business development. Don't do your own bookkeeping unless you really like it. QuickBooks is probably the most popular accounting package, very easy to learn. Quicken is not quite as good. Anyway, so when you start a business, the compliance things you need to do is you really need to register with the city that you're in, establish yourself and pay a tax, a business tax, gross receipts tax. You need to register with the county you're in, Alameda County. There's a lot of people don't know this, but there's a tax on your fixed equipment. It's very little, so it's not much money. If you're operating in a fictitious name, you need to also register with the county and get a fictitious business license. It's a little bit of a hassle, but it's not that expensive. Now again, assuming you have no employees, which I'll talk about in a second, then what you need to do is you just need to start your accounting, and then at some point you need to talk to somebody, probably a CPA is good, or someone that knows taxes, and I can talk about the hierarchy of people who do taxes. You can have, there'll be your H&R Block type people, there'll be your enrolled agents, and your CPAs. And I think you get what you pay for. So I don't want to denigrate, any other people in that chain, but I think with the train, you simply get what you pay for. The training of a CPA is greater than an enrolled agent, who's also greater than probably a typical H&R Block type of place. So you just have to know when your taxes are due. The income taxes are going to be, state and federal. They're going to be done simultaneously. You have to think about when that's due. And you might not have to think about it for, a year plus when you start. And then finally, the other compliance thing you have to think about is if you're selling something, you're selling a product, sales tax, which is also something that, with payroll, I can talk about it if Rick wants me to, but I recommend people don't do payroll. And with sales tax, it's easy. It's somewhat easy. Might have something you want to do. Income taxes, I would say don't try to do it yourself. Bookkeeping if you want to. Income tax, don't. Sales tax, maybe. Payroll, no.
Great, thank you. Erwin, so Alton talked a little bit about OBDC and the services they provide for folks that are, kind of too early in the process to be bankable in the traditional bank sense. One of the questions revolved around, I think, somebody that has a fairly substantial business that was looking at getting a working capital line. So I'd like everyone to just take a second and talk about, how they look at a client that comes in, what that client should have to be prepared, how they look at collateral and credit.
First, I saw the grimace when you said bank. We try not to take it personal, a little bit, but I think the biggest thing is, and everything that's been said so far leads you down that path. Preparation is key, and then the order of information that you have. So if you're talking about getting unsecured working capital, and I'm going to take it out of the business context and put it in a personal context, just think about that family member that always wants to borrow a little bit of money from you. There's always a little bit of trepidation because they come running up at the last minute. It's an emergency for them. It's your money. So if you switch that and put, you're the cousin, I'm the cousin with money. Be prepared. Have, a background on why you're going to use the money. The first thing I'm going to want to know is why you want to use it and how much. And the answer is not as much as I can give you. That's not the answer. And the reason that's not the answer is I want to see that you're going to be utilizing that for a specific purpose, and then that you've thought about how you're going to give the money back. It's a loan, not a grant, not a gift. It comes back to the bank. And so collateral, if it's available, and what that collateral may consist of. It could be accounts receivable, it could be inventory. It varies depending on whether you're building something or whether you're just providing a service, or whether you're a cash retail business. And so the things that we're really concerned about is when we put it out, are we secure? How are we going to get it paid back? And that's, we may not say that first, but that's really what we're thinking about. And the collateral provides some substance from that standpoint. And then your understanding of how you're going to use that money to make your business grow more profitably, or for you to save money. So you should never be borrowing money for working capital if it's not going to save you money or make you money. That's got to be guaranteed, because it's pretty and shiny, doesn't count. And again, how that is going to help your business operate more effectively. And that's something that should be right in the back of your mind. That's what we're thinking about overall. Cannot emphasize enough the importance of financial information. You know your business, you're there with it every day, you're living it. We only have one window to look at, and that's through your financial statements. And so the quality of those financial statements impacts our impression of what we're looking at tremendously. Hank, if I could put stars around it, highlight it, sprinkle it with gold, that's the comment. Get what you pay for. It's good for you to understand your business because you need to be able to explain it. As an example, If I ask you how your business operates, oh, I go out, I meet people, and they give me contracts. Well, I want to know how you get those contracts, how successful are you at getting those contracts, what's the closing rate and success of that activity, because then it tells me how you're handling your business operation, how you collect your accounts receivable. Those are the things that we really want to know and understand, the movement of cash flow through your business in order to make it.
Thank you. There are a number of questions on legal issues regarding like trademarks and patents and intellectual property in general, but I really want to broaden that question a little bit for Philip. And really the question to you is, you know, if these folks are out, they're in business, they're trying to find an attorney to establish an ongoing relationship with to support their business, how do you go about really selecting an attorney that's commensurate with, number one, your budget, and number two, your business objectives?
Interview. And that's as simple as going to the phone book if you have to do it. I would otherwise recommend talking to your friends or your other counselors. Everybody on this panel knows at least 3 lawyers, and I would call them all. Give yourself at least 5 or 6 options. Talk to them. You have to be able to trust your attorney. Your attorney is there to help you, but we can only do that if you are completely honest with us. And sometimes that means telling us things that you find embarrassing. That business deal that you tried to do last year that went horribly south because you did something really stupid, we need to know. And you can't not tell us because you're ashamed. The flip side of our request for your honesty is the privilege that exists between what you tell your attorney, and your attorney is platinum, solid titanium, impregnable. It's better than what you get with your doctor, it's better than what you get with your priest. So we can't tell anyone anything, ever, what you tell us. Now, when does that happen? Before you have ever even signed up with that attorney, everything you tell them is confidential. So I am ethically obligated to maintain, quote, at every peril to myself, end quote, the confidences of my clients. And that includes people who are just talking to me in order to become my client. So, what do? Find somebody you can trust that much. That's what you're looking for. Don't look for the shiny website. Don't look for the fancy law degrees. Don't look for the fancy office. Find someone who your references have told you is competent, and then that you get along with personally. That's what I think is the most important thing. Remember, to be an attorney, one must pass the California bar exam. And what that is it's a licensing exam. You can have some faith that the person you're dealing with, as long as they're a licensed attorney, is competent. Now, there's degrees of competency, I'll admit, but I don't want you to think that you have to necessarily go to, a big law firm in the city with big fancy offices. On the other hand, you don't necessarily want to go to a firm like mine, which is completely virtual, and I operate out of either my home or the hub up here on Alston Way. Sometimes I have had people call me up, and they've liked me. I've met with them. I wasn't wearing a tie, and that bothered me. And that was okay with me, because I would rather not have that interfere with our relationship. Whoever I'm dealing with has to trust me. They have to want me to be their attorney. And I take that really seriously. My wife gets really mad at me because I'll be on the phone, I'll come in, I'll be really exercised, and she'll say, "What's going on?" And I'll say, "I can't tell you." Why not? It's a client thing. And I've had friends of mine who've been my clients who have told me news. She found the news out later, pregnancies, job losses, and stuff. And she was really, really mad. And I told her I couldn't tell you when I knew because that's a client confidentiality. So that's our obligation to you. Your obligation to us is to be honest with us and find somebody you trust. That's what matters, and that's how I think you should find an attorney. Now, attorneys aren't cheap, so understand that I think, explain again, you do get what you pay for. So understand that you're going to be paying for legal services, but because we're not cheap, any lawyer worth their salt will give you at least a half hour of their time on that. If you walk into someone's office and say, "I'd like to talk to you about potentially becoming my lawyer," and they say, "That'll be great, give me $500, turn around and walk out. Whoever you're dealing with should at least give you at least that 30-minute consultation to figure out what you need, whether they can handle it, whether they should handle it, whether they're conflicted. All of these things have to happen before anyone can become your attorney. So those are the things. Trust them. Interview a bunch of us because we're all over the place and we all want to talk to you. We love what we do. And understand that you're going to pay for our services, but not for that first interview.
So I'm going to take a little bit of a break here, and in the vein of you get what you pay for, I'm going to say that's not always true. And I'm going to let Jack talk about SCORE.
You took the words out of my mouth. There are some things in life that are free and good. And SBDC and SCORE are two examples. We provide general counseling to startups and to in-business clients, small businesses, I mean. We don't do the work for you like a CPA or a lawyer would, where you're engaging them to actually provide a service. The counseling provides is to guide you through whatever issues, whether it's starting a business, going through the issues that Hank mentioned, developing a business plan, what's involved in that, expanding a business, whether it involves a marketing plan or just answering the questions that Edwin raised about what are you going to do with it. The counselors in SCORE all come from a variety of backgrounds. We don't own a client. The clients I get, if I feel there's another counselor in SCORE whose background or experience is better suited for that client's needs, I'll refer them to that counselor. We have counselors in SCORE all come from a variety of backgrounds. We don't own a client. The clients I get, if I feel there's another counselor in SCORE whose background or experience is better suited for that client's needs, I'll refer them to that counselor. We have a diversity of experiences in the chapter and in the organization, from high-tech to low-tech, from products to services. My own background is transportation logistics. The one thing I noticed is that whether your business is a standalone sole proprietor or a major corporation, probably 80% of the issues that you confront are the same. So the basics of a business, regardless of the size, are pretty fundamental. And again, free is not always bad.
Anyway, tell us a little bit more about a client that comes to you, the typical client that comes to you. They have a website, they want to improve it, they're looking for social media strategy. Do you charge for your services? Do you have classes?
Yes, we are theoretically for-profit business. And what we do is we tend to work with small businesses, individuals, a lot of nonprofits. Sometimes they come to us because they want to build a new website, and sometimes they come to us because they want to transition something that they've been using for a while into another format. And what we do is we do one-on-one coaching. We offer a lot of workshops and classes. We've had weekend workshops. We've had also 2 months ago, or last month in June, we had an entire month where we offered fairly low-cost classes in social media, web development, email marketing, all kinds of things that you need to do as a small business person. And my approach to technology for small business is really like, if it's just you and your business and maybe you run it to other people, you have to use tools that make you more efficient and tools that let you track the information. So like, for example, using a system that tells you, I've been doing deals, how many of them did I actually get? So I can go back and look and see how much money I made and how much money I lost on bids that I got or didn't get. So you have to be able to keep all of this information. And there's, unfortunately with technology, it's not an easy answer. You have to work at it because you have to learn how to use your tools. And so the way we do it, we do like a fairly gentle one-on-one kind of thing where you come in and learn how to update your website, you come in and learn how to use marketing tools. And we don't do sort of day-long, you sit in a room and you take some notes from the workshop. You have a project, you want to get something done, you show up, either we help you do it, we do it for you, or you can come, and if you don't have a lot of money, you can come in and just use our workspace and get a little bit of help and just do it all there. So we're trying to make it easy for people with small amounts of funds who want to be in a friendly place and work with technology.
One thing I'd say is before you see any of these professionals, a lot of folks, want to get some baseline knowledge. And quite frankly, you can get a lot of baseline knowledge from the SBA website. They have some interactive training tools. Pretty much everybody on this panel offers some degree of classes and education as a basic, fundamental type of learning process. Okay, we've got 2 more people, and then we'll throw it open to your questions. Well, tell me about business services. Every county, Oakland, they all have what's called workforce investment boards that are designed for business services and workforce development. The Oakland has a private industry council that takes that one step further. Just just mention briefly about the services that somebody can avail themselves from workforce organizations in general.
Sure. So the Private Industry Council runs the Oakland One-Stop Career Business Center. And we get thousands of people that come through the doors, all levels of skills, all levels of experience. They come in, they use our job search resources, which would include looking at job postings on bulletin boards, going on the computer, looking for job postings on different websites. We have a East Bay Works website where they can go to a specific website, and then it spiders out to all the different companies and resources that have businesses that are listing jobs throughout the entire East Bay. So it's a wonderful resource that people looking for a job can use. As business owners, though, you're looking for qualified, pre-screened people. And so that's what our center does. A person comes in, they use our resources, then they talk with our counselors. Our counselors see where they're at as far as their skills, experiences, abilities, knowledge, by using a number of different assessment tools. And then they may enroll in a program, a computer class, a job search class, mock interviews, resume development, whole gamut of job search resources are there. Once they come out of that process, then they're ready to go to work for you guys. And that's where I come in. I'll work with you to get you the most qualified pre-screened candidate I can that meets your needs. And we also, as I mentioned before, have incentives if you agree to hire one of our people that will come into play. And one of the biggest incentives currently is called the on-the-job training program. It's federal money, so there are certain requirements. When you agree to be part of this program, you have to agree to intend to hire the person on a permanent basis. You have to give them the resources and skills they need to be successful on the job. We'll work through with you a training program. And then when you start to pay the wages for this person, 90% of what you would pay in wages is reimbursed back to you for the training period. So when a person comes to you, you agree to hire them for 520 hours, or train them for 520 hours. For that period, you'll get 90% reimbursement on those wages. I have information here on that program. That's going to run through September. It's a limited, one-time opportunity only, free. And then after September, the regular program on the job training program will kick in, and that's a 50% reimbursement, also for a 520-hour training period. So that's the main thing that's really going to help your bottom line, but we can also connect you with other resources such as the enterprise zone tax credits, if anyone's ever heard of that. Oakland is primarily designated the entire city an enterprise zone, so any Oakland resident really would come with a special tax incentive on your income tax and state income tax. And then there's also a federal income tax credit called the Work Opportunity Tax Credit. And if you hire somebody that's formerly incarcerated, that's coming off the welfare system, that's a youth, these special kind of categories, the federal government will give you up to, well, with veterans now, because of the wars, they'll actually give you $9,000 back on the first year wages for if you hire a veteran. but most of them around the $4,000, $5,000 level reimbursement.
So I get calls all the time, Jack probably does too, everybody wants to know where's the grants, where's the free money. And you know, the reality is for a for-profit business, unless you're technology and you can apply for a grant from the federal government in an area that it's interested in, there aren't any grants. But there are, you know, if you go to your workforce development board, you go to your local city, you know, many times there are facade improvement grants for retailers. There are different types of employment grants like Lola was talking about. So those are, I think you can get a feel. You just need to network and you need to connect with people and you need to be wired into this stuff because there are tons of things that people don't take advantage of that can help their bottom line on a daily basis. So, last person, Noah, tell us what it's really like. I mean, we've heard all the good news. You know, give us you guys have been through some tough times in terms of growth, in terms of trying to get funding and that kind of thing, and just, you know, give us a couple examples of challenges that you've had and how you've overcome them.
Sure. So I'm sure, as everyone is aware, it's an interesting economy to be trying to start a business. And we started Donation Pay about 3 years ago. And you know, what we found, I think that our sort of most significant challenge at the beginning probably will be familiar to a lot of folks, which is that we were really good at one thing. And I suspect everybody feels like they're really good at some, well, the hope is you're really good at the one thing that your business was founded to do, right? And so we founded Donation Pay because, you know, in our case, we founded Donation Pay because we were a small team of web designers working for nonprofits. And we couldn't find a tool for our clients that did the thing that Donation Pay now does. So we wanted a tool that would accept donations and do event registration that was customizable in these particular ways, and we couldn't find a provider for clients. So we built Donation Pay. And we're good at web design and at coding particularly. We're a little team of folks that can really build an online donation tool. But there were maybe a dozen other critical pieces of building a new business that none of us were good at all. And so what we needed to do is find support in those areas. And I think at the beginning, you know, we were extremely busy. We're trying to get a product out of beta. We're trying to build all the features into it that we know our clients want. We feel like we're on this very short time frame. And so it was hard to make that decision to spend time going to meet with an SBDC advisor, for example, or interviewing a slew of attorneys before we hired one. It felt like we didn't have the time as founders to do that. But, you know, as I'm listening to folks on the panel talking about the kind of financial opportunities that are out there from these resource providers, one of the things that we found in the beginning is that we saved an enormous amount of money in the beginning of our business by connecting with the resources that we connected with. So, for example, last year, we got almost $30,000 in free training for advanced programming training for our development staff through a state program that we connected with through resource providers like the ones on the panel. And so I'm glad that everybody's here today. I think that it was hard for us at the beginning to make the decision to start going to events like this and connecting with the resources we needed, but it ended up being incredibly worth it. And so so, you know, we have this challenge that we weren't connecting with, or that we needed to connect with advisors and resources that could help us with these things in our business that we weren't good at. And so we built an advisory team back at the beginning, and if you're working with an advisor who's helping you build a business plan, or if you're out there trying to get a loan and you're using your business plan to do that, I'm sure you've been asked who is advising you and who's on your team. And so at the beginning, we sort of mined our personal networks, and we found folks who could fill these different slots. We needed somebody who was from the healthcare industry who could help us figure out how to reach out to hospitals. We needed somebody from the education industry who could help us reach out to schools and universities. And we, through our personal networks and then through more sort of official advising relationships like with SBDC, we got a group of people who was happy to give us an hour once every other month to give us invaluable advice. And so, you know, I suspect that everybody here is facing unique challenges to their business. But what we found in the beginning, and what we're still finding, is that no matter what kind of problem we were facing, with a little digging, there was somebody who could give us the perfect advice that would take us through that problem in a way that felt good to us and that was lucrative for our business. And so, I'm glad to be on this panel with these folks. I think even just on this panel, there's probably access to resources for almost any problem that folks in the room are facing. And I think as we get into your questions, we can sort of hit on more specific problems that we're facing and how we overcame them.
Great. What kind of questions do you guys have? Great.
Yes, I'm Lorraine Taylor, and I founder 1,000 Mothers to Prevent Violence. We are a grassroots nonprofit organization working with families and friends of homicide victims in Alameda County. So I wanted to know, does donation pay make donations? And that's not an organization.
That's a good question. So Donation Pay, we're a technology provider. So we provide the technology that you use on your website to accept donations from small donors, and we build tools for kind of other online money collections, so for event registrations, selling tickets, things like that. We don't do the actual fundraising piece, but I know as a nonprofit, especially maybe in this economy, when you're starting, a nonprofit is a business too, and you need to finance it, and it's difficult to find those financial resources. So what we do is we help with the piece, reaching out for large grants and finding corporate sponsorships and those kinds of things is incredibly important, and that's not the piece that we do. We make it easy for your small donors to give you either $20 or $100, and then to manage a membership base or a larger community of donors that are maybe giving $20 but they're giving it every month. But it's a hard time to start an effective nonprofit, but there's such need for community work. It sounds like you're filling an incredible need. And so I wonder if there's other folks on the panel who have ideas about reaching out for money.
Where are you located?
Pardon?
Where are you located?
We are Oakland-based,
Okay.
but I work out of my home right now.
So are you familiar with Occur? David Glover? So David Glover, in 1330 Broadway, 10th floor, the organization is called Occur. It is an organization that does basically what SBDC and SCORE does for community-based and faith-based nonprofits. You should connect with him.
David
Glover. Yeah, I'll if you see me afterwards, and give me your card. I'll send you his information. Next question. Yes, sir.
Jim had mentioned earlier in the keynote that one of the resources that he found invaluable were support groups, essentially, regular meetings that are held in the community for entrepreneurs to meet and to cross-pollinate, to talk amongst themselves about issues. I know that there's this one-on-one kind of engagement with organizations like SCORE, but what I'm referring to is the entrepreneur within the group kind of just discussing issues across the board, whatever you financial or marketing. Are there such meetings?
Yeah, there's a number of organizations out there. We don't do that, but entrepreneur organizations, there's a website called Meetup, which lists all sorts of affinity groups that get together periodically. There's breakfast groups.
BNI is one. BNI is one.
And is that a website, BNI.org?
Basically brings entrepreneurs together for breakfast.
Yeah, the chambers put on breakfasts. In this regard, I think you talk to colleagues and friends, but the web is an incredible resource for just doing some basic fact-finding on this. They're out there, but they're not. There's not a directory that, other than the Meetup directory, I'm aware of.
What kind of business are you in?
Software service, so it would be internet related. But I had more or less just basic questions about marketing, about how one goes about, let's say, using technology to market, or getting boots on the ground and actually doing it myself in this particular area. Marketing is one area that I think we have a knowledgeable or you're well versed in. So kind of just need help in that area, who to turn to find it.
Well, certainly the groups, similarly situated businesses would be a terrific resource. SBA SBDC, we provide counseling on the same vein to help with marketing. The two areas that I find most small businesses struggle with are marketing and money. No surprise. Everyone's got a great idea, but how do you find customers and how do you make money? So you.
So first of all, I run a storefront in downtown Oakland, and we do have several meetups for marketing and technology businesses. So maybe I'll do that afterwards. And I have an invite-only meetup for people who run technology businesses, so we can kind of iterate and figure stuff out. As far as marketing, one thing to be very careful with is that technology is not marketing. So picking a tool, choosing Facebook or Twitter, is not the same thing as actually talking to people and finding out what they want. And this is something that, so you still have to talk to somebody who understands humans and who understands like what. So you have to you have to find somebody who can help you figure out who your customers are if you don't already know, how to reach out to them, where they hang out, how do you talk to them, how do you connect with them. And then you kind of go in and choose a technology tool, whether you want to use email or you want to use Facebook or social networking or whatever kinds of things you want to do, whether you're going to take out an ad in the paper, that may be more efficient for some businesses. So you still have to kind of find a marketing person.
Next question, yes.
My question is directed at Philip and Hank. How do you know when you should go from a sole proprietorship to an LLC or some other type of entity? What is the tipping point?
I'll let Hank handle when it makes tax sense. But from a liability perspective, your sole proprietorship is really just you. So you are out there doing it. And if everything goes great, that's wonderful, and you reap all the benefits. If something goes horribly wrong, you're the target. And that means, for example, your food, your house, your car, your children's college fund, everything is risk to satisfy whatever damage you may occur. Corporations, limited liability companies, other forms of business entities erect a wall between your personal finance and your business finance. That's what limited liability means. One's liability is limited to the assets of one entity. Now, that's not absolute. You have to take steps to maintain that limited liability. You have to respect that corporate form. It has to pay its own bills. It has to sign its contracts. You can't commingle your assets with the business assets, and you can't voluntarily give up limited liability. So, in direct answer to your question, when do I change corporate form? It depends in part on what you're doing. If you're knitting mittens and selling them on Etsy, that's a very low liability business. If you're engaged in the transport of hazardous flammable chemicals, that's a very dangerous situation. And the former, I might say it's okay to be a full prop. There's not a big chance you're going to get killed. The other one, I would always recommend a contract investment. So when to do it in terms of liability is when you believe you are beginning to face risk consequences which people want to take personally, right? That's sort of a very gray area, and it's not the only complexity is another. When you begin to have entities, Republican presidential candidate was right when he said corporations are people too, my friend. And that is true. They need their own blood, their own lifeline. They have their own identity. They pay their own taxes. So you're, in essence, doubling up about it. How you can do this
my advice generally is stay simple as you can. And don't do it. Don't just something Phil said it's complex. They're going to double your accounting fees. You're going to get legal fees. And I also want to say one other thing that Phil about what he does and like choosing a lawyer, choosing a CPA. Is, I mean, it's intuitive. You want to choose, Phil talked about trust. You want advisors who talk to language in risk, because Phil brought up the thing about if you want to, be more complex entity, it's about risk. And you want people who, will understand about risk and also, be compatible with you about risk. I mean, one thing about, lawyers is that they can the reason why lawyers are often accused of overcharging, and CPAs, but most of lawyers, why they do overcharging is because they're trying to protect you from risk, and maybe you don't feel you need that. That's another why you need to trust your lawyer to understand you, understand what you want to pay for, and what risks are really out there for you.
Yes. Yeah.
Hi. Okay, I was somewhere, search, I was being searched, I guess. I found that there was a need in a particular area, which is a vacancy, which is at a coffee shop, which is work. And so, I did a lot of research. Talked to the person with the business I was at, went around the area, did a target marketing strategy, called the county, called the city, got all the documents I needed. I even had my, I went down to the state office and got what I needed from them. And then I hit a snag when it was time to exchange money, where the property manager is this really old guy who's not really into entrepreneurs. And so, but he was my only connect with the owners of the property. I called down again to the assessor's office, to the treasurer's office, I done everything I can to find it. It's in a really good area, it's in a zone that one of the city zones where they get the different grants that you were just speaking of earlier, the different grants that from beautifying, and they can really, it's a really big anchor strip right at us. It's a really good area. How do I find a way when I cannot find a way to contact that owner, because that was the snag I hit in January.
How long has the property been vacant?
For a while. For over a year.
And a person wouldn't, as a courtesy, just even pass on the proposal to the owners?
Well, he did, believe it or not, because I filed Schedule C. I'm a barber and, lower level, but I have, been in business for myself. But I'm able to file Schedule C still, and I don't have a big tax liability. And so he told me, well, you need to spend $10.99. Well, I'm not spending $10.99. What, do you want to make you $10.99? I can't do that. But this is my thing with him. I said, okay, you have the owner's contact directly. That was actually what I asked. And he just couldn't get a grasp of what I was saying. And when I went downtown and looked, the information they had on file hit another dead end. Somebody maybe in cities outside Alameda County, 2 different locations, but no void numbers and whatnot.
Jack, you think for it?
I was just going to,
Well, actually, it's beyond my personal experience in dealing with landlords and how to connect. You're just basically trying to get to the owner of the property to make your pitch to use the property.
Right. I actually got approval to use the property from one quote-unquote manager. But they said, oh no, this guy's going to handle it because I'm too busy, and that's why it's a snag.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was just going to say, to segue something else, does anyone want to know about buying a business and starting one from scratch? Is anyone interested in that? Buying a business? Buying an existing business?
So here's for your question. I don't have any more expertise than Jack has on this. I do have a guy that works for us that is fairly savvy in commercial real estate. So why don't we connect, and I'll try to, I'm not sure that he can help you or not, but we can give it a shot.
Okay.
and maybe he'll know some people. And, you know, I mean, my kind of theory in this is, it's kind of the preparation that Alton talked about, or Erwin talked about. You know, when you go to that person and they've got a preconceived notion, you have to come loaded for bear. I mean, you have to have basically a presentation. You have to show them you know what you're doing. And so, all right. Well, let's talk. Let's see if we can, Jack or I can help you in any particular regard. Yes, sir.
Oh, please, my question is directed to lenders. I want them to be specific about loans that are SBA backed, or, you know, the other type of loans that are not backed by SBA. And they should tell us exactly what they really need, because some of these lenders, I found out from my experience that some of them are very inept. They are not, you know, they don't have the knowledge of what SBA is actually offering out there. And when you apply to them, they want to put you through their own loans. So where you don't meet it, then they keep asking you for more information. So I want them to be more specific and lay it out clearly what they need from a small business like me. And, you know, I think that's all, you know, they need to do instead of hiding under SBA, which they don't even understand what SBA is offering.
So the question is the frustration, I think, you know, from a number of entrepreneurs or small business owners attempting to get financing and kind of, you know, here's my comment. You only do this once in your life or 3 times in your life or however many, where, you know, these folks are kind of dealing with this every day and they expect to see data in a certain format. And my advice to you is to connect with SCORE, to connect with the SBDC. I've got a guy. Well, I've got a guy on my staff who was an SBA loan processor, and I mean, so, you know, I mean, maybe it works with one counselor, maybe it doesn't work with one counselor. Same with SCORE, same with the SBDC. But the issue is, I mean, the information is pretty standard, I think, across various lenders. Various lenders, based on your particular profile, are going to come back and ask for incremental information to validate that you're qualified for the loan. So that's a normal part of the process. I'm going through that right now when I'm trying to get a mortgage in this environment. But the issue is to condense that and cut it down and make it as efficient as possible, just like with the landlord. And the way to do that is to make sure that you understand the requirements of the lending institution and get as close to that the first time in as possible.
That's what I'm asking. The lenders don't tell you exactly what they need. No, I'm telling you, that's from my experience. Yeah. I've dealt with some of them.
So, Erwin.
So the first thing I would recommend, man, is you talk to a different lender. It can vary by organization. If you're talking about a bank lender or an organization like OBDC, they're going to be pretty direct. For the most part, have a checklist for you of what the information they're going to need. Just off the bat, pretty much guaranteed 3 years of financial information, consecutive years at year end. So I don't want to March 31st, 2009 and April 30th, 2010. I need 12/31, if that's your year end, 09, 10, 11, and the end of the financial statement. Depending on the type of business that you have, might need accounts receivable aging, if you're a contractor, work in progress schedule, personal financial statement, business tax returns, personal tax returns, all of those for those consistent time frames, because as Alden said, we're going to take all that and put it into global cash flow and look to see what's happening with you and your business at the same time. So simultaneously, that information is going to be there.
Okay, so what's the difference between what you offering with what SBA is asking?
You're going to get this. You're going to have the same information that's going to be asked from that standpoint as it relates to an SBA loan, but depending on the type of business that you have, then the SBA may want to validate specifically a contract that you may be taking on, depending on what it's going to, how it's going to impact your business. So what kind of business do you operate?
I mean, export business.
So then we're going to want to make sure that you've got at least a standby or enough worthiness to be able to have a letter of credit in place, because that's pretty much all.
How do I get the letter of credit? If I'm not getting
With
the
that-
letter,
with that
no,
same-
no, I'm asking you, if I come to you and say
So,
Export Express.
excuse me.
Do you know anything about Export Express?
So I'm going to ask you to talk to, if it's okay, I'm going to ask you to talk to Erwin right after we break, because we're really running out of time. I want to get a few more questions in, and I want you to think about something. I'm going to ask you guys at the end, right before we break, what should the EDA be doing? What should we be doing? What kind of things can you suggest to us that would make your access to our services better, or in a different and unique way that we can help you? I'll give you an example of that. Last time somebody said, there's a whole bunch of people here that are working 16 hours a day just barely making a living, and they don't speak English. So what you ought to do is you ought to take 3-minute videos and you ought to stick them on a website so that they can access them on different topics whenever they have time to do it. I thought that was brilliant. So anyway, but think about that in the back of your mind. 3 last questions. You, sir.
Predominantly targeted towards Erwin, but anybody else could jump in. My former employer, unfortunately, after 130 years of business, was forced into liquidation. We were fortunate enough to purchase the assets of the corporation. We are now back into the restart stage of this company. We purchased all the brands, et cetera. We just didn't take the liabilities. Is that situation, is that considered a startup, or is that considered somewhat of a company that has a 130-year track record? And we do have sales history to support it.
It is both, and the reason that it falls to the startup category is because now it's in the management and ownership.
Right.
That experience and that history is transferable, and when you're looking at business operations, you have the management experience, albeit not as the owner, that's worth something as it relates to the overall operation of the business. It will still be treated from a banking standpoint purely, it will still be treated as a startup, but there'll be serious consideration for the length of time and experience.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. I'm a sole owner of a business, and I have business insurance. I am not yet a homeowner, but in the future will be. I would like to know how to protect myself if I ever got sued, how to protect my assets from my business if I ever got sued. Not looking forward to it, but just needing to know.
2 things. The first is get insurance and make sure that the insurance covers the types of risks you're worried about. And the other is contemplate forming a business entity, and then contemplate forming a business entity. So if you're a sole proprietor now, you could form, for example, an LLC. LLC stands for Limited Liability Company. They're great insofar as they're simple. They're simple to form. There's different ways of forming it, but if you want to do it the least expensive way, there's a form on the California Secretary of State's website. It costs $70 to fill out, send in, bang, you have a company. There's a company called NOLO, N-O-L-O. They are great. They're a group of attorneys who graduated here from Berkeley in the 70s, and they were going to bring the law to the people. And they've done that. You can go on their website and or buy their books, and they're a brilliant resource on sort of getting up to speed, sort of a 101 level on forming an entity, buying a business, actually a lot of things, divorces, immigration, adoption, buying a house, etc. In any case, what you can do is insurance will provide you with assets to a certain degree. Assets usable for a specific purpose, right? In that case, if the harm that the insurance covers occurs, then the insurance will pay for the damage. That's how insurance works. Forming the entity and then making sure that your business operates through the entity and that your personal finances and the business finances are all separate, and you keep that separation very bright and very clear. Then, in the unlikely and horrible event that you were sued, and it was a business event, then the asset at risk in that lawsuit should be consigned to the LLC. Now, this is 30,000 feet, very sort of general way of going about it. There are exceptions to everything, but unless you're involved in a profession, accounting or lawyering or doctoring or something of the sort, what I just said is probably true.
Another question. Yes, sir.
So, I have a small business, just started a few months back. And I have some assets from a previous business that I closed, and some equipment which are on lease. Now I want to get new equipment on lease, but because of personal credit history and all of that, getting a loan is next to impossible. So how do I proceed? I want to upgrade my machine. It might cost $100,000. How do I?
Repeat the question?
Yeah, I think anybody.
May want to repeat that.
Yeah. Here. Is this mic'd or is this? Maybe it's just for recording.
That might just do anything.
Okay. All right.
My camera.
Okay. A little louder.
So I have a small business, just newly formed, and I have a previous business from which I bought some equipment. One of them is on lease. Now there are newer models which can do better things, and I want to upgrade my equipment. So now that the old business is gone, the new business is only 3 months old or 4 months old. How do I go about getting a loan to upgrade the new machine?
This actually sounds like a question for a place like OBDC Finance. There would be a discussion, 5, 10, 15 minutes to figure out what exactly is happening with the business situation. We know there's at least one business liability from what you mentioned, which is that equipment that you have on lease. Is that hurting your business cash flow for how much you're generating it, for example? Then we're going to look at the household stuff. And then you mentioned, and thank you too for sharing with the public, that you mentioned that there's some issues on a personal credit plan perhaps. I'm going to target that. I'm going to explore that and see if that might fit in with our eligibility requirements. Now, this kind of goes off on a slight tangent of what you were asking. What does the SBA require? How can we know the direct answer? The SBA actually has a checklist, let's say, about this point. And then a lender, such as OBDC Finance, will absorb the SBA checklist and add on their own checklist. Now, a bank may come in, such as a Canada, and add in yet an additional amount of checklists. I say, so that's why I've just explained to you whether it's right or not. So we can take this offline, but the reason why Erwin suggested to go to different lenders is because of that very reason. Every lender has their different eligibility requirements, regardless if you get an SBA loan product or not. So maybe it'll work for us. For example, bankruptcy. How long do you think we'll have to have bankruptcy dismissed or discharged before we're able to consider an application from the entrepreneur? Just
10 years.
That's high numbers. So for Mechanics Bank, what would it be? You know, no loan. For us, 3 years prior to discharge or dismissal is when you can actually apply for a loan. Is it different in different lenders? Yet, we both offer SBA loans. So that's why you have to speak to the lender. As far as you, I mean, it's a case-by-case basis, just like a case-by-case. We'll have to talk about it offline and see if it might fit. And if not, I may know of other more flexible lenders who can finance essentially start a business if it's not the same.
I just want to tack onto that just a little bit. I think I'll
microphone to the camera.
The resources that we're talking about as it relates to the SBDC and SCORE can help you at least talk yourself through that process in preparation. They're not going to necessarily have the answer for the lender, but will help you ferret out that all of the things that you have that are challenging from that standpoint, so you can prepare yourself to have that conversation with an organization like OBDC. It's really important for you, I can't recall whether it was the attorney or the CPA, you need to disclose what's going on. Your honesty, your candor makes a difference. I'm going to find out. You want to tell me before I find out. I'm just, now as a parent, child relationship, but the fact is, when we start digging, and I will dig, I will find out. And so it's better to hear that from you to say, I have a challenge, here's what the challenge was, here's how I responded to the challenge, now I don't know what to do. Or, I have a challenge and I didn't know what to do, so this is what I did. At least then we can start matching that up and have a better understanding versus finding out, you know, a couple weeks or a month down the road, and then I got to go, sorry. So,
Okay, so we have to wrap it up now, and because the general session starts again in a few minutes. And I'm going to encourage those of you that like exercise to walk down the stairs. But we have some other questions, but I encourage you to, you know, rope the panelists that you want to talk to, get those questions answered. Okay, I'm going to take just a couple comments. Anybody have anything, any ideas in their mind of how we can better help you, how we can get our services out?
I think the best thing is that more lenders out there. What I'm doing, 2 lenders. Okay, next time, there's a lot of lenders.
We have, there are going to be events coming up in different parts of the county we're putting on it, called Lenders Breakfast, where there are going to be a whole bunch of lenders.
All right.
And I'm sure, you know, SCORE does things like that as well.
There are 2 lenders each session, so there are 8 lenders here.
There are 8 lenders here, so you can find other people as well, that's right. Yes?
It seems that what I'm hearing, and I would love, is to have some way to come together as a group. And maybe we could start off as, you know, we're all newbies, let's say. And then each month we're learning about a different facet of business that's going to help us. And at the end of the year we get some kind of certification, or I don't know. But that we're all forming a group and we're all together. And
there are a variety of programs like that through, you know, SCORE has a sort of a program like that. We have a program like that, Women's Initiative, a number of folks. So connect with me and I'll kind of try to link you to some of this.
I'm a little more specialized into a specific careers. People here who are doing export doesn't interest me at all. People who have restaurants, people who have healthcare services, people that have things like that where all the different healthcare people get together, whether they've been in business for a month or 20 years, they have things that they could share with each other that wouldn't relate to other people. So maybe smaller groups like this, but more targeted for a particular career or profession.
SCORE does offer, our chapter, we provide an import-export workshop, we provide a restaurant workshop, a retail workshop, specifically targeted to those businesses. So that may be one avenue to meet with like-minded.
Well, I'm healthcare, and I've met 3 or 4 other people this morning, and we have different kinds of needs and problems than other people. I thought that'd be kind of nice to have a targeted group like that. I understand what you're saying.
And I think some of what Jack and Anka and some of the other folks mentioned before in terms of there are groups out there, it's tough to find them. But I think that the concept of having, be it mixers or network groups that are industry specific, and that ties back into your comment as well, would be, you know, would be incredibly valuable in the community. I'm going to have to cut it off because we have to get downstairs. Comments, questions, please corner me or any of the panelists. I really appreciate your time.